The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian, its crystalline dome reaching toward the stars like a prayer to the cosmos. Representatives from 47 species filled the massive chamber, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry of scales, fur, chitin, and energy fields that shifted with each breath and thought. Fleet Admiral Zyxthara of the Hegemony Navy stood at the central podium, her 6 arms gesturing dismissively at the holographic display floating above the assembly. The image showed a cluster of vessels, 12 ships in total, small and angular, moving through the void with what appeared to be primitive ion drives. Honored council members, Zyxthara's voice resonated through the chamber's translation matrix, her tone dripping with barely concealed amusement. I present to you our latest concern. A ripple of chittering laughter swept through the assembly as delegates examined the pathetic fleet on display. Ambassador Cleith of the Crystalline Domains raised one of his faceted appendages, light refracting through his transparent form. Fleet Admiral, surely you jest. These vessels appear to be constructed from basic alloys. I've seen mining barges with more impressive specifications. The Hegemony officer's mandibles clicked in agreement. Indeed, Ambassador. Each ship measures approximately 300 meters in length. Their energy signatures suggest fusion reactors, technology we abandoned millennia ago. Yet they approach our space with apparent purpose, broadcasting primitive radio signals requesting dialogue. Chancellor Vorth of the Molten Worlds erupted in a shower of sparks, his metallic frame shaking with what passed for laughter among his kind. Radio signals. By the Great Furnace, what's next? Will they communicate through smoke signals and drum beats? The assembly exploded into a cacophony of alien mirth. The Gossamer Collective's representative, a cloud of sentient gas, pulsed with colors indicating extreme amusement, while the insectoid swarm queen's antennae twitched rapidly in the pattern of barely contained hilarity. Director Salthon of the Psionic Consortium materialized partially into physical space, his ethereal form shimmering with condescension. Perhaps they're refugees from some backwater system, seeking our generous protection. We could relocate them to a suitable mining world, where their enthusiasm might prove useful. Or, interjected Trade Prince Haxlore of the Commercial Federation, his cybernetic implants calculating rapidly, they might serve as an amusing spectacle. The entertainment value alone could generate substantial revenue streams. Fleet Admiral Zyxthara's expression grew more serious as she manipulated the holographic controls. While I appreciate the Council's levity, there are certain anomalies that warrant attention. Observe their formation patterns. The display zoomed in, showing the 12 vessels arranged in a complex 3-dimensional configuration. They moved with precise coordination, maintaining exact distances and angles that seemed almost choreographed. Their tactical arrangement suggests military training, Zyxthara continued. Additionally, our long-range sensors detect unusual electromagnetic signatures. Nothing threatening, mind you, but curious. Ambassador Cleitha's crystalline form flickered with dismissive light patterns. Fleet Admiral, with respect, military training with primitive technology remains primitive. A sword-wielding warrior may be disciplined, but he poses little threat to a plasma cannon. Supreme Overlord Krothnox of the Death Worlds leaned forward in his biomechanical throne, his scarred exoskeleton creaking ominously. Why do we waste time with this insignificant flotilla? Send a single patrol ship to escort them away. If they refuse, demonstrate the consequences of trespassing in council space. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The massive holographic displays surrounding the chamber showed the current positions of council fleets. Thousands of dreadnoughts, each one larger than the entire approaching formation. Kilometer-long battle cruisers patrolled the borders, their weapons capable of cracking planets. The comparison was so absurd it bordered on the surreal. Very well, Chancellor Vorth declared, his voice crackling like contained lightning. I propose we dispatch Patrol Group 7 to investigate these visitors. Surely a single heavy cruiser and 3 escorts will suffice for such a mighty armada. The sarcasm was thick enough to cut with a blade, drawing fresh waves of laughter from the assembly. Even the typically stoic representatives of the Eternal Empire, ancient beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, allowed themselves subtle expressions of amusement. Fleet Admiral ZYX nodded reluctantly. As the Council wishes, Patrol Group 7 is currently 3 light hours from the unknown fleet's position. They should intercept within the standard cycle. She paused, studying the tactical display with professional attention. Something about those formations nagged at her military instincts, but she couldn't identify the source of her unease. The ships moved with a precision that spoke of extensive training, yet their technology appeared centuries behind Council standards. Fleet Admiral, called Ambassador Yixtel of the Aquatic Confederacy, his voice bubbling through specialized translation equipment. Have these primitives identified themselves? Do we know which species they represent? ZYX's antennae twitched slightly. They claim to represent something called the Terran Federation. Our xenological databases contain no record of this designation or their species. They appear to be bipedal, carbon-based, with internal skeletons. Fairly standard evolutionary template. Terran, mused Director Southon, his psychic tendrils probing the information. An unremarkable name for what appears to be an unremarkable species. Perhaps this encounter will at least provide our scientists with new specimens to study. The Grand Assembly erupted in fresh laughter, the sound echoing off the crystalline dome like the chittering of insects. None of them noticed the slight tremor in Fleet Admiral ZYX's voice as she spoke, or the way her compound eyes lingered on the tactical display long after the other delegates had dismissed it. In the depths of space, 12 small ships continued their steady approach, their primitive radio transmissions carrying a simple message repeated in perfect galactic standard. This is the Terran Federation vessel constitution. We come in peace, but we are prepared for any alternative you might choose. 3 light hours away from the Grand Assembly, Captain Thexvar of the Council heavy cruiser Inevitable Dominion studied the approaching formation with growing irritation. His ship alone massed 40,000 tons and bristled with enough firepower to sterilize a small moon. The 3 escort destroyers under his command added another 15,000 tons of military might to his patrol group. Against this force, 12 primitive vessels approached with the confidence of conquerors. Tactical officer? Thexvar growled, his scaled hide rippling with annoyance. Confirm the specifications of these ships. Lieutenant Zephael consulted her displays, her 4 eyes scanning multiple data streams simultaneously. Captain, long-range analysis indicates basic durasteel hulls, primitive fusion reactors, and what appear to be chemical-based attitude thrusters. Mass estimates range from 8 to 12,000 tons per vessel. Total enemy tonnage, approximately 120,000 tons. Enemy tonnage, Captain Thexvar repeated with bitter amusement. His patrol group alone outgunned them 3-1, and backup was only hours away. Weapons officer, what armaments do you detect? Commander Yothka's mandibles clicked as he processed sensor data. Surface-mounted projectile weapons, Captain. Primitive kinetic systems. Some evidence of basic energy weapons, possibly laser arrays. Nothing that could penetrate our shields at minimum power. The bridge crew exchanged glances of professional contempt. They were veterans of the Rim Wars, survivors of battles against proper military forces equipped with antimatter torpedoes and quantum disruptors. These newcomers represented a technological gap so vast it was almost insulting. Communications, Thexvar ordered. Open a channel to the lead vessel. The main view screen flickered to life, displaying the bridge of what the primitives called the Constitution. The image quality was surprisingly clear, showing a bipedal figure in what appeared to be a basic uniform. The creature had pale skin, bilateral symmetry, and small eyes that seemed almost predatory in their focus. I am Captain Sarah Chan of the Terran Federation Starship Constitution, the figure said, her voice carrying clearly through the translation matrix. To whom am I speaking? Captain Thexvar drew himself to his full height, his impressive bulk dominating his command chair. I am Captain Thexvar of the Galactic Council Navy. You are trespassing in restricted space. Turn your vessels around immediately, or face the consequences. The human, for that was apparently what they called themselves, studied him with those unsettling eyes. Captain Thexvar, we've come a very long way to speak with the Galactic Council. We represent the interests of humanity and the worlds under Terran protection. We request safe passage to address the Assembly. Request denied, Thexvar snapped. Your primitive fleet poses no threat, but Council law is absolute. Withdraw immediately. Something shifted in the human's expression, a subtle hardening around those predatory eyes. Captain, with respect, we didn't come here to withdraw. We came here to talk. Whether that conversation happens peacefully or otherwise is entirely up to you. The bridge crew burst into laughter. Even the typically disciplined warriors of the void couldn't contain their amusement at such brazen stupidity. Thexvar's own amusement died quickly, however, as he studied the human's face. There was no fear there, no recognition of the impossible odds. Only a cold, calculating patience that reminded him uncomfortably of apex predators he'd encountered on Death Worlds. Tactical, he ordered quietly. Bring weapons to ready status. Shields at 20%. No need to waste power. Aye, Captain. Weapons charging. Shall I target their engines or life support? Before Thexvar could respond, Lieutenant Zephael's voice cut across the bridge with sudden urgency. Captain, energy signatures are spiking across the human formation. Massive power redistribution in progress. On the view screen, Captain Chen's expression remained unchanged. Captain Thexvar, this is your final opportunity to reconsider. Stand down your weapons and allow us to proceed. Or what? Thexvar snarled, his patience finally exhausted. You'll ram us with your antique ships? Fire your primitive projectile weapons at military-grade shielding. The human smiled, and something about that expression sent ice through Thexvar's circulatory system. Or we'll show you why the Terran Federation doesn't build big ships. The Constitution flickered and vanished. What? Thexvar began, then stopped as his sensor officer's voice filled the bridge with naked panic. Captain, the human vessel just... it's gone. Completely disappeared from all sensors. Impossible. Ships don't just... The inevitable Dominion shuddered as something impacted their starboard hull. No explosion, no energy discharge. Just a solid metallic thunk that shouldn't have been able to penetrate their shields at all. Damage report, Thexvar roared. Hull breach on deck 12. How did they... Captain, there's something attached to our hull. The main display switched to external cameras, showing a sleek metallic pod clamped to the cruiser's armored plating. As they watched, the pod's surface glowed briefly, and then the hull beneath it simply disappeared. Not melted or blasted away, but gone, as if reality had decided that particular section of armor no longer existed. Boarding pod, Commander Yothka shouted. They're boarding us. More impacts echoed through the ship as additional pods attached themselves to the hull. The human formation had somehow closed from 3 light minutes to point-blank range in seconds, and now they were inside Council shields, inside Council defenses, treating 40,000 tons of military might like a civilian transport. All hands, repel boarders, Thexvar commanded, but his voice carried the hollow ring of growing realization. These weren't primitive barbarians stumbling into Council space. These were predators who had been watching, learning, and preparing. On the view screen, Captain Chen's image remained steady, her ship somehow maintaining perfect communication despite being invisible to every sensor on the bridge. Captain Thexvar, she said conversationally, you're about to meet some of my Marines. I suggest you treat them with respect. We really do prefer to talk. The last thing Captain Thexvar heard before his bridge erupted in chaos was the human's final comment, delivered with the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. Fair warning. They've been cooped up in those ships for 3 months, and they're feeling a bit energetic. The Grand Assembly Hall buzzed with nervous energy as emergency alerts cascaded across every display screen. Fleet Admiral Ziwexthera stood rigid at the central podium, her 6 arms manipulating holographic controls with desperate precision while chaos erupted around her. Fleet Admiral, Chancellor Vortha's metallic voice crackled with electronic static. Explain how 12 primitive vessels just crippled a Council patrol group. The tactical display showed the impossible. Patrol Group 7's heavy cruiser Inevitable Dominion lay dead in space, its escorts scattered and damaged. Emergency beacons painted the void in distress signals, while the human fleet had simply vanished again. "Honorable Chancellor," Zewextra replied, her professional composure cracking at the edges. Captain Thexvar's final transmission indicated boarding actions and some form of advanced stealth technology. The humans appeared to use localized space folding for rapid tactical movement. Ambassador Cletha's crystalline form pulsed with agitated light patterns. Space folding? That's council-level technology. How could primitives with fusion reactors possibly? "They're not primitives," Director Southon interrupted, his psychic form solidifying as he focused intently on the data streams. "I'm reading Captain Thexvar's memories through our neural link. The boarding parties. They moved through his ship like it was made of paper. Their weapons cut through durasteel as if it were fabric." Supreme Overlord Krothnox leaned forward in his biomechanical throne, scarred plating gleaming under the chamber's lights. "Show us the recordings." The central hologram shifted, displaying grainy internal security footage from the Inevitable Dominion. The assembly watched in stunned silence as humanoid figures in sleek combat armor flowed through the ship's corridors like liquid death. Their weapons, compact devices that seemed almost toy-like, carved through blast doors and defensive positions with contemptuous ease. But it wasn't the technology that sent chills through the watching delegates. It was the way the humans moved. No wasted motion, no hesitation, no mercy. They flowed around defensive positions like water around stones, coordinating with a precision that spoke of countless battles fought in unimaginable circumstances. "By the Great Furnace," Chancellor Vorth whispered, his earlier bravado completely evaporated. "Look at their tactics. They're not just soldiers, they're apex predators." Trade Prince Haxlor's cybernetic implants whirred frantically as he processed the footage. "The efficiency ratings are off our charts. 97% mission success with 0 casualties. They disabled a crew of 400 in less than 6 minutes. Disabled? Ambassador Yixtel gurgled through his aquatic breathing apparatus. "They didn't kill them?" Director Southon's ethereal form shimmered with unease. "No. Captain Thexvar's crew is alive but unconscious. The humans used some form of neural disruptor, precise, non-lethal, but completely effective. They wanted prisoners, not corpses." The implications hit the assembly like a physical blow. A species capable of such surgical precision in combat had chosen restraint. They could have destroyed the patrol group entirely, but they hadn't. The message was clear. This was a demonstration, not a massacre. Fleet Admiral Zewextra cleared her throat, drawing attention back to the tactical display. "Honored delegates, we have a more immediate concern. Long-range sensors detect the human fleet approaching our position. Estimated arrival, 2 standard hours." 2 hours? Supreme Overlord Krothnox roared. "Deploy the sector defense fleet. I want every dreadnought between here and the outer markers." "Already done, Overlord," Zewextra replied grimly. "Battle Group Prime is moving to intercept 57 capital ships, including 3 planet killers. If these humans want to fight, they'll get one." The assembly's mood shifted from shocked confusion to grim determination. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years through superior technology and overwhelming force. No upstart species, no matter how clever, could challenge that dominance. Ambassador Cletha's form blazed with martial light. "How many ships do they have total? Surely this can't be their entire fleet." According to their transmissions, Zewextra consulted her displays. "These 12 vessels represent the complete Terran diplomatic mission. They claim no additional forces are in system." "Diplomatic mission?" Chancellor Vortha's voice carried a note of hysterical laughter. "They just crippled our patrol group as diplomacy?" "Actually," Director Southon interjected, his psychic tendrils probing the data streams, "reviewing their actions, they could have destroyed Captain Thexvar's entire group in the opening moments. Instead, they disabled his weapons, captured his crew, and left his ships intact. For a species apparently capable of advanced stealth and weapons technology, their restraint is remarkable." The uncomfortable truth settled over the assembly like a shroud. These humans hadn't attacked, they had demonstrated. They had shown the Council exactly how vulnerable their supposedly superior technology really was, then stepped back and waited for a response. Trade Prince Haxlor's calculations reached a disturbing conclusion. If 12 ships could neutralize a patrol group that easily, what could a full human battle fleet accomplish? There is no human battle fleet, Supreme Overlord Krothnox declared firmly. These are clearly their most advanced vessels, probably their entire military force. We're seeing their best shot, and after we crush it, they'll have no choice but to surrender. Fleet Admiral ZYX wasn't so certain. Something about the human tactics nagged at her professional instincts. The precision, the restraint, the casual confidence. It reminded her of stories from the ancient wars, tales of species that had learned to fight in the deep void where survival meant perfection or death. Fleet Admiral, Chancellor Vorth commanded, open a channel to Battle Group Prime. I want to speak with Admiral Kronthax directly. The holographic display shifted to show the bridge of the dreadnought Cosmic Domination. Admiral Kronthax's massive form filled the command chair, his battle-scarred carapace gleaming under the harsh lighting of a warship ready for combat. Honored Chancellor, the Admiral's voice rumbled with anticipation. My ships are at full battle readiness, weapons charged, shields at maximum, fighters deployed. These primitives will learn the price of challenging Council authority. Admiral, ZYX interrupted. Recommend extreme caution. These humans have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our initial assessments. Kronthax's laugh was like grinding stone. Fleet Admiral, with respect, I have faced the Devourer swarms and the Quantum Pirates. I have shattered worlds and broken empires. 12 small ships, no matter how clever, cannot stand against the might of Battle Group Prime. As if summoned by his boast, proximity alarms began shrieking across every display. The human fleet had arrived, but they weren't where the sensors said they should be. They were already here. Admiral Kronthax stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 12 small contacts had appeared throughout his formation, not approaching from the expected vector, but materializing inside his defensive perimeter as if they had always been there. Tactical! He roared, his massive frame straining against his command restraints. How did they penetrate our sensor grid? Commander Vixotha's voice cracked with professional confusion. Admiral, they didn't penetrate anything. According to our systems, they've been in formation with us for the past 10 minutes. But that's impossible. We would have detected. It's not impossible, came a new voice across the fleet communication channel. You just don't understand what you're looking at. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the human vessel Constitution. Captain Sarah Chan sat in her command chair with the relaxed posture of someone completely in control of the situation. Admiral Kronthax, she continued. I'm Captain Chan. We need to talk. There will be no talking, Kronthax bellowed. You are surrounded by 57 capital ships. Surrender immediately or face annihilation. Captain Chun glanced at something off-screen, then looked back with what might have been amusement. Admiral, respectfully, you're not surrounding us. We're surrounding you. The tactical display updated, and Kronthax felt his blood turn to ice. The 12 human ships weren't randomly scattered through his formation. They were positioned with mathematical precision at the exact points where they could target every critical system of every Council vessel simultaneously. Impossible, he whispered. Our shields, our armor. Won't help, Chen interrupted. Admiral, we didn't come here to destroy your fleet. We came here to prove a point. Your weapons are aimed outward, expecting an external threat. Your ships are designed to fight enemies who play by the same rules you do. But we stopped playing by those rules a long time ago. Commander Vixotha's voice carried naked panic now. Admiral, energy readings are spiking across all human vessels. Unknown weapon signatures powering up. On the view screen, Captain Chen's expression grew serious. Admiral, I'm going to give you a demonstration. Please don't take it personally. The Dreadnought Stellar Annihilator, all 80,000 tons of it, simply stopped. Every system, every light, every thruster died simultaneously. The massive warship became a dark hulk drifting through space, completely powerless but undamaged. "What did you do?" Kronthax demanded. "We asked their computers to take a nap," Chun replied calmly. "Admiral, your technology is impressive, but it's also predictable. Every council ship uses variations of the same basic systems, the same programming languages, the same security protocols. We've been studying you for a very long time." More ships began going dark as the human demonstration continued. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply turned off like someone had thrown a switch. The pride of the Council Navy was being neutered by an enemy that seemed to exist in the spaces between their understanding. "This is what happens," Captain Chun continued. "When a species develops technology in isolation, under pressure, with no rules to guide them except survival. You built your ships to fight other ships like yours. We built ours to fight anything that might try to kill us, using whatever methods worked." Admiral Kronthax watched helplessly as half his fleet went dead. "Our backup systems are also experiencing technical difficulties," Chun finished. "Admiral, we don't want to fight you. We want to talk to your leaders. But every time we try, someone decides to test their weapons against us. So now we're going to end that pattern once and for all." The remaining active ships tried to open fire, but their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the human vessels. The 12 small ships seemed to exist in a state of quantum uncertainty, there and not there simultaneously, solid enough to broadcast communications but ethereal enough to ignore Council weapons entirely. "How?" Kronthax asked, his voice hollow with defeat. "We learned to bend space because we had to," Chun replied. "We learned to hack quantum computers because the alternative was extinction. We learned to make small ships undetectable because we couldn't afford to build big ones. Admiral, humanity has been fighting for survival since we crawled out of caves. Everything we are, everything we've built, everything we've learned, it all comes from one simple fact." She leaned forward in her command chair, and her eyes held depths that spoke of struggles beyond imagination. "We never had the luxury of fighting fair." Back in the Grand Assembly Hall, the Council delegates watched the demonstration in stunned silence. Their most powerful fleet was being systematically dismantled by an enemy they couldn't even target properly. Fleet Admiral Zyxthara found her voice first. "Honored delegates, we need to reconsider our position. These humans aren't primitives. They're something else entirely." "What are they?" whispered Ambassador Cleith. Director Southon's psychic form rippled with disturbing insights as he probed the data streams. According to their ship logs, they call their home system Sol, third planet from a yellow star on the outer rim of the galaxy. But delegates, there's something else. Something that explains everything. "What?" demanded Chancellor Vorth. "They're alone," Southon replied, his voice heavy with implications. "Completely alone. In their entire system, they're the only sapient species. No allies, no enemies, just them against the universe itself. Everything they've learned, every technology they've developed, came from the absolute necessity of survival without any external help." The truth hit the Assembly like a physical blow. The Galactic Council had developed through cooperation, trade, and shared knowledge. Each species had contributed their strengths while others covered their weaknesses. But humanity had been forced to become everything themselves: warriors, scientists, engineers, philosophers, with no safety net except their own ingenuity. Supreme Overlord Krothnox spoke in a voice filled with dawning respect. They didn't just survive in isolation. They thrived. On the tactical display, the human fleet maintained its perfect formation around the disabled Council ships. 12 small vessels holding an entire battle group hostage through technology that seemed like magic but was actually just the product of desperate innovation refined over millennia. Captain Chen's voice echoed through the chamber. "Council delegates, we know you're listening. We've come a very long way to have a conversation. The question is, are you ready to listen?" The Grand Assembly Hall had never been so quiet. 400 delegates from 47 species sat in absolute silence, watching as Captain Sarah Chen's image dominated the central holographic display. Her ship, the Constitution, hung in space surrounded by the disabled remnants of Battle Group Prime, 57 capital ships rendered helpless by technology that defied every principle of Council military doctrine. Honorable delegates, Chen began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's translation matrix. My name is Captain Sarah Chan of the Terran Federation. I represent 3 billion humans and the worlds under our protection. We've come to discuss humanity's place in galactic civilization. Chancellor Vorth found his voice first, though it crackled with barely controlled fear. Captain Chun, you have demonstrated your capabilities. What do you want from the Council? Chen's expression remained neutral, professional. We want what every species wants, Chancellor. Recognition, trade, and the right to exist without interference. For the past 2 centuries, Council policy has maintained a quarantine around our system. We'd like to discuss ending that arrangement. Fleet Admiral Zyxthara leaned forward, her compound eyes studying the human with professional interest. Captain, our records indicate that Sol System was classified as a restricted zone due to the aggressive nature of its inhabitants. The quarantine was established for the protection of galactic peace. Aggressive? Chun repeated, and something shifted in her tone. Admiral, would you like to know why we're aggressive? The tactical display shifted, showing a star map of the local galactic region. Sol System appeared as a tiny on the outer rim, surrounded by vast empty spaces. 15 light-years from our homeworld, Chun continued, we discovered the ruins of the Centauri civilization, an entire species, completely extinct. Do you know what killed them? Director Salthon's psychic form rippled with unease. Captain, Centauri civilization fell to internal conflicts over resource allocation. No, Chun interrupted sharply. They fell to something else. Something that came from deep space and devoured everything in its path. We found the records, Director. We know what's out there in the dark between stars. The holographic display zoomed in on a sector of space beyond the galactic rim, where ancient sensor readings showed vast, moving shadows that consumed light itself. The Devourers, Chun said simply. The swarm that hungers. The species that feeds on stellar energy and leaves nothing but cold emptiness behind. You know about them, don't you, Council? Supreme Overlord Krothnox shifted uncomfortably in his biomechanical throne. The outer rim phenomena are classified. Are classified because you're terrified, Chen finished. You've built this beautiful civilization in the galaxy's heart, surrounded yourselves with allies and trade partners, and convinced yourselves that the monsters in the dark can't reach you here. But they can, Overlord. They will. And when they come, your big ships and conventional tactics won't save you. Ambassador Cletha's crystalline form pulsed with agitated light. Captain, assuming these threats exist, what does this have to do with humanity's quarantine? Chen's image smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Because we've been fighting them for 300 years. The silence that followed was absolute. Every delegate in the assembly stared at the human captain with dawning comprehension of what her words meant. The quarantine wasn't to protect the galaxy from us, Chun continued. It was to hide the fact that we've been serving as your outer rim defense force without even knowing it. Every probe that gets too close to inhabited space, every scout ship that tries to map the approaches to Council territory, we intercept them. We've been your unwitting guardians, and we're very good at it. Trade Prince Haxlor's cybernetic implants whirred frantically as he processed this information. The resource allocation reports, the missing exploration vessels in the outer rim sectors. You've been protecting you, Chun confirmed. But we're tired of doing it alone. Humanity has been isolated for millennia, fighting monsters in the dark while you built utopias in the light. We've developed our technology out of necessity, honed our tactics through constant warfare, and learned to survive in conditions that would break most species. But we're not infinite, Council. Even we have limits. The tactical display showed human patrol routes extending far beyond Sol System, forming a defensive perimeter that protected dozens of inhabited worlds from threats they never knew existed. We've come to offer you a choice, Chen said. You can continue to pretend we don't exist, maintain your quarantine, and hope we keep fighting your battles for you indefinitely. Or you can acknowledge reality, accept us as equals, and let us help you prepare for what's coming. What's coming? Chancellor Vorth asked, though his metallic voice suggested he already feared the answer. Chen's expression grew grim. The main swarm, the Devourers, have been probing your defenses for centuries, sending scouts and advance forces to test your responses. We've stopped most of them, but some have gotten through. They've been mapping your territory, studying your weaknesses, preparing for a full-scale invasion. Our projections suggest you have maybe 50 years before they arrive in force. Fleet Admiral ZYXthera's military training finally overcame her shock. Captain, what are you proposing? An alliance, Chen replied. Share your technology with us, and we'll share ours. Your manufacturing capabilities combined with our combat experience could create defenses that might actually work. Your big ships carrying our weapons, our stealth technology protecting your trade routes, our tactical knowledge supplementing your strategic planning. Director Salthon's psychic form solidified as he focused intently on the human captain. And if we refuse? Chen shrugged. Then we pull back to defend Sol System and leave you to face the Devourers alone. We've done our part, Council. We've bought you 3 centuries of peace and safety. If you want more, you'll have to earn it. The implications hung in the air like a sword. Humanity held all the cards: military superiority, technological advantages, and most importantly, experience fighting the enemy that would eventually come for everyone. Supreme Overlord Krothnox leaned forward in his throne. Captain Chun, assuming we were to consider such an alliance, what guarantees could you offer that humanity wouldn't use its advantages against Council worlds? Chen's laugh was short and bitter. Overlord, look around you. We have 12 ships. You have thousands. If we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we would have done it already. We're not interested in ruling you, we're interested in surviving what's coming. And whether you like it or not, your survival and ours are now permanently linked. The truth of her words settled over the assembly like a cold dawn. The galaxy had changed forever in the span of a single day, and there was no going back to the comfortable certainties of the past. Chancellor Vortha's voice carried the weight of reluctant acceptance. Captain Chun, the Council will need time to consider your proposal. Of course, Chen replied, but don't take too long. The enemy isn't going to wait for you to make up your minds. 3 months after first contact, the Grand Assembly Hall buzzed with unprecedented activity. Representatives from all 47 Council species had gathered for the most important vote in galactic history, while outside the Crystalline Dome, the first joint Human Council fleet exercises painted the void with weapons fire and exotic energy signatures. Captain Sarah Chun stood at the central podium where Fleet Admiral ZYXthera had once dismissed her fleet as primitive. Now the Admiral sat among the delegates as humanity's strongest military advocate, her compound eyes reflecting the holographic displays that showed the impossible progress of the Joint Defense Initiative. Honored delegates, Chen began, her voice carrying the weight of 3 months of intense negotiations. The integration of human and council technologies has exceeded all projections. Your industrial capacity combined with our tactical innovations has created defensive capabilities neither of our civilizations could have achieved alone. The central hologram shifted to show the new hybrid vessels under construction in orbital shipyards throughout Council space. They were elegant compromises between human stealth technology and Council firepower, sleek ships that could fold space like origami while carrying enough weapons to shatter asteroids. Ambassador Cletha's crystalline form pulsed with cautious optimism. Captain Chun, the technological exchange has indeed been illuminating. However, many delegates remain concerned about the cultural implications of full integration. Chun nodded respectfully. Ambassador, I understand those concerns. Humanity's military focus can seem intimidating to species that have known peace for millennia. But consider this, we've been shaped by necessity, not choice. Given alternatives to constant warfare, humans are capable of remarkable adaptability. She gestured to the viewing ports, where human and alien crews worked side by side on the joint exercises. 3 months ago, your people saw us as primitive aggressors. Now they're training alongside our officers, learning tactics that could save billions of lives. That transformation didn't happen through conquest. It happened through cooperation. Trade Prince Haxlor's cybernetic implants calculated rapidly as he processed economic projections. The commercial benefits are undeniable. Human mining techniques have increased asteroid belt yields by 400%. Their manufacturing processes have reduced production costs across all sectors. But the military applications are necessary, Supreme Overlord Krothnox interrupted, his scarred carapace reflecting hard-earned wisdom. I've reviewed the intelligence reports from the Outer Rim. The Devourer probe activity has increased 30% since humanity revealed their existence. The enemy knows we've strengthened our defenses, and they're responding accordingly. Director Salthon's psychic form shimmered as he shared classified information with the Assembly. Delegates, what the Overlord says is accurate. Our joint monitoring stations have detected massive energy signatures moving through the void beyond our sensor range. Something vast is stirring in the dark between galaxies, and it's aware of our preparations. Chancellor Vortha's metallic voice carried urgent conviction. Then we have no choice. The motion before the Assembly is clear. Full integration of the Terran Federation into the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. The alternative is extinction. The debate that followed was fierce but brief. 3 months of cooperation had proven that humans could be trusted allies rather than conquerors. Their restraint during first contact, their willingness to share technology freely, and most importantly, their effectiveness in preparing for the coming storm had won over even the most skeptical delegates. Admiral Kronthax, still smarting from his fleet's humiliation but pragmatic enough to recognize military necessity, cast the deciding vote. The warriors of my species respect strength above all else. Humanity has demonstrated both strength and honor. The hegemony supports full integration. The final tally was unanimous, 47 species voting to welcome humanity into galactic civilization. As the votes were recorded, Chun felt a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying finally lift from her shoulders. For the first time in centuries, humanity wouldn't face the darkness alone. But even as the delegates celebrated their historic decision, emergency alerts began cascading across every display in the chamber. The joint monitoring stations were detecting something unprecedented, energy signatures so massive they registered as stellar phenomena, moving with purpose and intelligence through the cosmic void. Fleet Admiral Zyxthara's voice cut through the celebration like a blade. Delegates' long-range sensors are detecting multiple contacts beyond the galactic rim. Mass estimates suggest individual entities measuring 50,000 kilometers in length. The Assembly fell silent as the implications sank in. The Devourers weren't just coming. They were already here, probing the galaxy's outer defenses with scouts the size of small moons. Chun stepped forward, her expression grim but determined. Delegates, this is what we've been preparing for. Those entities will reach inhabited space within 6 months, not 50 years. Our intelligence was wrong. The main invasion has already begun. The holographic displays updated to show humanity's outer rim defense stations, automated fortresses that had been fighting the enemy for decades without council knowledge. One by one, they were going dark as the Devourer advance forces systematically eliminated humanity's early warning network. Captain? Director Salthon asked, his psychic form rippling with barely controlled fear. What are our chances? Chun studied the tactical displays with professional detachment, calculating odds that would have terrified her just months ago. But now humanity wasn't alone. Now they had allies, resources, and most importantly, hope. Alone, humanity could have held them at Sol System for maybe a decade, she replied honestly. But we're not alone anymore. Your manufacturing capabilities have given us the resources to build defenses we could never have imagined. Your scientific knowledge has enhanced our weapons beyond anything we thought possible. And your courage has proven that this galaxy is worth fighting for. She turned to address the full assembly, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who had stared into the abyss and chosen to fight rather than flee. The Devourers have spent millions of years consuming galaxies, leaving nothing but empty void in their wake. They've never encountered resistance like what we're about to show them. They expect to find scattered civilizations fighting alone, easy prey for their overwhelming numbers. Instead, They're going to find something that has never existed before in the history of the universe. A truly united galaxy, combining the best of 48 different species into a defense force that can match their hunger with our determination. The tactical displays showed the fruits of 3 months of frantic preparation. Hybrid defense platforms combining human stealth technology with Council firepower, fleets of new generation vessels that could fold space and strike from impossible angles, and most importantly, a command structure that had learned to think like humans while maintaining the strategic depth of galactic civilization. Supreme Overlord Krothnox stood from his biomechanical throne, his scarred form radiating warrior's pride. Captain Chun, the Death Worlds pledge our full military might to this defense. Our warriors have grown soft in peaceful times. This enemy will remind them what they were born to be. One by one, the other delegates made similar commitments. The crystalline domains offered their quantum computing arrays for real-time tactical coordination. The psionic consortium promised to link every fleet commander in a battle meld that would allow instantaneous communication across light years. The Aquatic Confederacy would provide mobile support bases that could sustain fleets far from home ports. But it was Trade Prince Haxlor's contribution that sealed their fate. Captain, the Commercial Federation controls 70% of galactic manufacturing. Every shipyard, every factory, every automated production facility will be converted to military use within the week. If you can design the weapons, we can build them faster than anyone has ever imagined. Chun felt a smile cross her face for the first time since the crisis began. Prince Haxlor, we've been designing weapons for 3 centuries. The only limit has been our ability to build them. With your resources backing our innovations. The implications hung in the air like a promise. Humanity's desperate creativity combined with the Council's vast resources could create a defense force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Devourers had never faced organized resistance on this scale, never encountered enemies who could adapt and innovate faster than they could consume. Fleet Admiral ZY activated the Chamber's strategic planning systems, filling the space with 3-dimensional tactical displays. Captain Chun, with the Council's unanimous support, I'm placing all military forces under Joint Human Council command. What are your recommendations for the defense of galactic civilization? Chun studied the displays, her mind already working through strategies that combined human tactics with Council resources. The old patterns of thinking, humanity standing alone against impossible odds, finally broke apart, replaced by something far more dangerous to their enemies. Admiral, we're going to do something the Devourers have never seen before. We're going to make them fight for every star system, every planet, every space station. But more than that, we're going to make them afraid. She manipulated the holographic controls, showing defensive positions that used human mobility combined with Council firepower to create killing fields among the stars. They're used to overwhelming static defenses through sheer numbers. But we're not going to give them static defenses. We're going to give them a war of maneuver that follows human tactical doctrine. Hit hard, hit fast, and disappear before they can respond. Your big ships will provide the firepower, our small ships will provide the mobility, and together we'll teach these cosmic locusts what happens when they try to devour a galaxy that knows how to fight back. The Grand Assembly erupted in cheers as the first truly united galactic defense force in history began to take shape. Outside the crystalline dome, the joint fleet exercises took on new urgency as human and alien crews prepared for the greatest battle any of them would ever face. Captain Sarah Chun looked out at the stars and smiled. Humanity had spent 3 centuries fighting alone in the dark, learning to survive against impossible odds. Now they would teach the galaxy what they had learned, and together they would show the Devourers that some prey fought back. The tiny fleet that had once been dismissed as primitive now stood at the heart of galactic civilization's greatest hope. And in the dark between the stars, something vast and hungry was about to discover why humanity had never learned to surrender. The real war was just beginning.